Good morning, church family. I hope you're doing well on this Friday morning. I wanted to shoot this quick devotional outside because it is just beautiful outside. The sun coming through the clouds, the smell of fresh rain, and even a little sprinkling now. The birds singing. It is a gorgeous day today. Get outside and enjoy what God's given us today. But as we get near here to our 2 months into this quarantine, I just want to ask you a question. Do you need anything? What are you lacking? Hopefully you're not lacking food or shelter or any of the basic needs. Hopefully you've been able to get medications you may need, or any doctor's visits that were really important you had to get in. You've probably been able to get those. But what are you lacking? What do you need? You know, in James, that familiar passage as James starts his book, his letter, he writes, "Count it all joy, brothers, when we face trials of various kinds," right? And we're familiar with this idea of counting it all joy. And even as we think about the New Testament church, you know, this church that's facing these massive trials of persecution and abandonment from their family as they follow Christ and forsake what they once were. We think of these massive, big, earth-shaking trials. But what's interesting in that passage is it says, when you meet trials of various kinds. So it's not just talking about the big trials. He's talking about all the trials, all shapes and sizes of trials and difficulties and challenges. And he goes on to say that those challenges create a testing of our faith. And that testing of our faith produces a steadfastness. And when that steadfastness grows, it grows to a place of spiritual maturity where we lack nothing. So maybe you can already see where I'm going here, but I just want to encourage you with this, that God has placed trials, big and trials small, in your life and in my life to grow us into maturity so that we would experience a lack of nothing. So that no matter what comes, we lack nothing. We are constant, we are stable, or to use the Bible word, we are steadfast. It's a beautiful picture of the work that God does in our hearts of sanctification, where he says, listen, this is going to be difficult, this is going to be a hard trial, but approach this with joy, because at the end of this trial and at the end of this challenge, you'll lack nothing. So approach this trial with joy, and certainly hard trials, difficult trials, devastating trials, at first really don't feel joyful at all. But hopefully as time goes on and as the testing of our faith continues to develop, we begin to see things more clearly. We begin to see what's really true. Our faith starts rising to the top, and what's really true and what's really essential rises to the top, and everything else just kind of drifts away. But remember, it's not just the big trials, the life-changing trials. It's those small trials. I was talking with somebody briefly this week, and they said their husband's working from home, and he's having some physical pain. They have college kids home who are working on exams, and then there's still homeschooling going on in the midst of all of this with the little kids. You know what? It's created some unique challenges for that family. And they just asked for some prayer and some encouragement through this time. And so we prayed together and prayed for them. But you know what? It's trials of various kind that test our faith. Moms and dads, you've been home with the kids now for 2 months, and no doubt that there's been times of tension and difficulty just because too many sinners living under one roof. Maybe you don't have kids at home, and maybe you're just feeling cooped up and I can't get out and I can't do anything. Or you see things on the news or you hear about things that are really concerning to you. Remember, it's trials of various kinds that test our faith. So whether it's the little kids who are fighting, or the noisy family running around while you're trying to do work downstairs, or whether it's a worldwide pandemic, whatever it is, all of those trials, God is using to test our faith, to reveal to us what is ultimately true, so that at the end we would step back and see, I have need of nothing. I lack nothing. Isn't it crazy the audacity that God would say, count it joy when you face trials? Like, who says that? Who says, oh, this is going to be good. This is actually for your good. This is for your joy. Who can make that claim? The God who can make that claim is the God who knows that the reason this trial can be counted as joy is because at the end of this trial, you can experience a satisfaction and a contentment, a lacking of nothing that nothing else in this world can provide for you. It's a God who knows the truth, who has given us the truth, and who is leading us into this truth so that our hearts can rest in Him. So as we continue on, who knows how much longer, but as we continue on, and frankly, whether pandemic or no pandemic, we're going to face trials and difficulties in this world. But as we continue on, let me just challenge you to consider it joy when you face crying and screaming kids, frustrating Zoom calls, being cooped up in your house, because those trials will test and prove your faith. And then at the end, you'll come out realizing you have in God, in Christ, everything that you need. Have a great weekend.